Thank you very much, and good evening all. And thank you for that lovely welcome. And it's nice to be up here in Saugerties. I was just telling a lady here, when I was a child, and you will probably all know East Durham, which I still think is referred to as the Irish Alps.
Yeah.
And my parents, of course, native Irish, probably every 2 weeks every summer we would come up to East Durham. And in fact, used to stay in a place called Gavin's on the Hill. And I still think, I think it's still there, functioning very well. I mean, nice, actually, has gotten a revival over there. But anyhow, thank you for having me, and it's a delight to be here. I'd like to start off with a personal story, which is called God and the Devil, or in Ireland, if you've been to Ireland, they'll say the Divil. God and the Divil dividing the people. Across the fields from where I grew up as a child, in Castletowngagan in County Westmeath in the Midlands of Ireland, lived a man by the name of Joe Keenan. He was affectionately known to all of us as the Rat. And when you looked into his face, you understood why. Now, Joe wasn't a particularly liked person in our community. There were two main reasons. One, he was rarely in good humor. Many a time when my mother would send me down to the village on the bicycle for messages, at that time the bicycle was bigger than myself. And I might meet Joe coming along the road, and if it was a nice day like today, I might say to him, "Grand day, isn't it, Joe?" "What's so good about it?" was the answer that I got most of the time. The other reason Joe wasn't liked very much, you see, he was very stingy, especially when it came to his apple orchard. For you see, Joe Keenan had the finest apples that ever slipped down a man or a woman's gullet. Don't you know the kind? And he rarely used them himself, and he would hardly ever share them with anybody else. But justice will be done in these matters, and justice was done. But you see, living in the village of Castletowngagan at that time was two of what was known as the boyos. Don't you all know what a boyo is? A Dennis the Menace type. You know that sort of. As I looked around, I think there's a couple here tonight, including the fellow up here telling the story. Now, the first of these boyos was a fellow by the name of Joe Carey. To give you an idea of the kind that Joe was, you've all seen the dog with the long, sad face and the long ears. Well, that was Joe and my classmate. Now, when we were going to school, he was known as the jerker. The reason for that, at that time, the teachers could beat us with anything they want. A piece of a strap, a cane, a stick, a yardstick, anything at all. Now, Joe was the sort of lad, he rarely got beat. But every now and again, when he did have to receive the slaps, he would go up to the front of the room. And at the last minute, as the stick descended, he would get so nervous that he would jerk the hand back, resulting in the teacher receiving the blow instead of Joe. Now, I don't know what I was doing to him this particular day. I sat in the seat right next to him. But I was just in the act of lashing out at him when Miss Kyo, my first teacher, a great one with a rip on wheels, looked up and said, "Come up here this minute, Joe Carey." "But Miss Kyo, I didn't do anything." "Come up here this minute, Joe Carey." Well, Joe went up to the front of the room. And then she said to him, "Put out your hand." "But Miss Kyo, I didn't do anything." "Put out your hand." Well, the hand went out over the desk. Now, on this occasion, Miss Kyo decided not to get up from behind the desk to deliver the blows, a decision that she was to regret, I can tell you. She leaned back with all of her strength, and she came down, and at the last minute, Joe jerked the hand back. The stick hit the edge of the desk, flew up into the air in two pieces, one of which landed on Miss Kyo's head. We all fell out of our desks in laughter. But she made us pay, because she lined us all up, and she gave us 5 shots on each hand. And there are days, I think, I can still feel. The second of the boys was a fellow by the name of Billy McLavin. Wee Willie, as we used to call him. Wee Willie was, and still is, no more than 4 feet 9 inches in height, and the last time I saw him in the village of Castletown, Geoghegan, he was sitting up on the stool having a pint of Guinness, and the legs still didn't reach the floor. Now Billy was the sort of fella, if you got on his bad side, he got revenge. I remember my father telling me, a farmer, I don't know what he did to Billy, but one day when the farmer was out of the house, Billy went up and he took the door off the hinges. And then he took the donkey, or as we used to say, the ass. He took the ass and cart and he backed it all the way into your man's living room and left it there. A fine thing to find in your house when you came back home. Now I don't know what the Rat Keenan did to Billy McLavin, if he did anything at all. But one night Billy decided that he was going to go up and steal all of the rat's apples. And he talked Joe Carey into going with him. They waited down by Billy's house until the rat passed down the road to the pub. He went down to the pub most nights. And when he had passed down the road, the lads came out of the house, big shopping bags, up the road, into the rat's farm, into his orchard, up the trees, and a couple of hours later there was hardly an apple left in it. Fleeced! The lads headed back to our village, a distance of about a mile made more difficult, of course, by the weight of the apples. And when they got within the edge of our village, they decided that they would stop, rest themselves, and divide the apples in our graveyard. And one of the bags was so heavy, they left it at the gate and decided they would divide those on the way out. They went into the graveyard. It was a lovely moonlit night. Where else would you find yourself? Went in, found themselves 2 comfortable gravestones, sat down and started to divide the apples. That's mine. That's yours. That's mine. That's yours. That's mine. That's yours. Strange words to be coming from a graveyard at 12 o'clock at night, don't you think? So thought Johnny Gilligan. Another one of the interesting characters of my village. Tell you a little something about Johnny. Now, Johnny didn't drink too much. But many times at the end of the week, after a hard week of work, he'd go into the pub and might have a pint or 2 with the lads. Well, this particular night he must have had a couple of extra pints. Because when he came out, he was leaning up against the wall of the pub and trying to find himself in some kind of contact with the floor underneath him. And when the eyes cleared up, who did he see coming for him, straight for him, but our parish priest, the PP, as we used to call him, Father McGahey, a man who hated drink in all forms. And when he saw Johnny up against the wall of the pub, he came up to him nose to nose, eyeball to eyeball. "Drunk again, Johnny?" "Aye, me too, Father," was his response. Now, Johnny was also very superstitious, especially when it came to graveyards. And you see, he lived near the graveyard in our town. So many times if he was on the way home by himself at night and he was feeling a little bit of anxious passing the graveyard, he'd be humming a bit of a tune to himself or singing a bit of a song. So this night he's coming along and he's calling, dee-da-dee-da, dee-da-dee-da, dum the light of the dum, and suddenly he hears, "That's mine, that's yours, that's mine, that's yours, that's mine, that's yours." "Oh God," says Johnny, "it's the end of the world. God and the devil are down here in the graveyard dividing the people." Well, as fast as he could, he raced back down into my village and he started to bang on doors in all directions. "Come out," says he, "it's the end of the world. God and the devil are down here in the graveyard dividing the people." Well, now, most people in my village, they knew the Johnny. They knew the sort that he was. They didn't pay attention to him most of the time. But don't you know how some people are? The nosy and the curious. Some people in my village actually got up out of their beds at 12 o'clock at night, dressed themselves, and marched all the way down to the graveyard. And they stood by the gate and they listened. "That's mine. That's yours. That's mine. That's yours. That's mine. That's yours." And then there was a pause. And after a moment, the voice of Billy McLavin rose up once more. Now, let's get down and divide the ones at the gate. Well, I can tell you, I can assure you there was the sound of pounding footsteps heard all over my village that night, going in all directions, led by the voice of Johnny Gilligan saying, "Oh God, please do not divide me." Thank you very much. Sinead on skate.
Wasn't that great entertainment? What do you think? Was it great entertainment? What do you have to say to everybody? Oh, what? Uh-oh.
Stay at home, man. Stay at home, man.
Television. Do you know what I am saying? do you know what I am saying?